Hi, welcome to NAB 2016. And Atomos is really the HDR NAB. That's what we're bringing here, and it's the world's most advanced monitoring system. What we do is we make monitor recorders, and we bring faster, cheaper, higher quality production to every camera and every production crew. So I want to go through exactly what we're doing here. AtomHDR. AtomHDR is an engine that we are capable of putting into our devices that resolves the full dynamic range, the full brightness range of your sensor. There's a wonderful revolution coming called high dynamic range. And why is it so cool? Well, you can now shoot movies and video the way you see things. You can get the highlights and you can get the blacks. We've always had to compromise with a narrow dynamic range of Rec. 709. And this shows you what I would normally get. This shows you what I end up getting. And AtomHDR is the engine behind the Atomos products that allows you to do this HDR today. You don't need to buy a new camera, you just need a camera with log. Most cameras have log on it today. Log equals HDR. HDR equals log. Log, HDR. They are connected. Why? Because the high dynamic range of a sensor is inserted into the log signal. So it's already in there. All the data's in there. And I want to make it clear that we don't touch the footage. We still record the log to Cinema DNG. We record it to ProRes. We record it to DNX that goes into all of your editing and grading packages. You just take the log footage through. What we give you is a reference monitor so you can expose correctly and see what HDR looks like from your log footage, and it's very simple. And let's show you how that happens. So first of all, we've got a very simple slider on our device. This shows you from Rec. 709 right through to HDR. And what it does is it changes depending on the log curve here. So there's three very important parts to this equation. First of all, you got your log camera. Secondly, I need to set up which camera it is. We support Sony, we support Canon, Panasonic, Red, JVC, Ikegami. Everyone's log curves we support. Why? Because we showed them our AtomHDR engine. They loved it so much, they said, here's the algorithm for the log. So provided we've got that algorithm, we control the panel, we control the operating system, we control the HDMI and SDI interface. We wrote them all ourselves. The touch controller on the screen is ours. We control everything inside the product. We don't rely on any other companies in this hall, and we don't rely on anyone else to do our products. We do them ourselves. The most important thing about this equation is when I'm shooting, this shot that was shot here is blown out. It's kite surfing on the beach in Port Melbourne. I took it 2 weeks ago. Right now, my dynamic range is this wide, and this is the clipping point on my waveform. So everything underneath, I'm resolving and I'm showing on the screen. Everything above it, I am not resolving. That is Rec. 709. That's the problem. We can't see this. We can't see the sun that's sitting right here. It's not there. So let's see what happens as we move the slider. I go halfway, and now my sun is starting to resolve. It's starting to look like what I'm looking at. High dynamic range, high brightness range is exactly how the eye sees. That's why it's so revolutionary. When you see it, you're like, wow, that's what I'm one of those guys that sees the sunset, wants to capture it, and then gets really disappointed when he can't see what he saw at the time. Trying to explain to my family, you'll know it was really beautiful when you travel. So this is the last 3 months, I've been able to shoot what I see. And watch as we go to the next phase. See the sun going bigger and smaller. And this is what happens when you resolve the full dynamic range. This is as I saw it. I can see all the detail down here, and I can resolve more and more. But can you see how I've actually gone a bit too far here? That's the full dynamic range of the sensor. Now, my scene is almost the full dynamic range, but it's not quite. So I don't want to monitor at the full dynamic range. I want to bring it back a little bit And the secret is we just kiss the top of the waveform. You want to bring that line on that slider so that you're just kissing the top of the waveform. So let's go back and take a look at that. That is actually what I was seeing. That right there. And I'm trying to show you that I'm at around 1400% of Rec 709 here. And on the screen, we show you the stops as well. Just here. We show you the number of stops above Rec 709 because there's a lot of conjecture about what Rec 709's number of stops is. Is it 5.27? Is it 5.5? Is it 6? If you do the actual mathematical equation, it should be 6.64. Log base 2 of 100. But that's not the case. So if my engineers told me, you can't say it's 5, you can't say it's 6. If I did say that, what you would be reading here is 6 plus 2, which would be 8 stops. And my panel is capable at 1500 nits, white point, and a 1 nit black point, it's capable of 10.2 stops of dynamic range. I can resolve on this panel 10.2 stops. That's why I can do HDR, and because I control the engine completely. If you take a look at this user interface, everything is one touch away. This is not the only function inside this product. We have 4 monitoring functions which come from this monitoring icon. We have editing functions which are in this flag icon, so you can tag your footage in playback, cut, edit, and while you're shooting, you can say, I really like this shot. I want the post-production guy to really use this. This gives us my monitoring tools, focus peaking, zebras, etc., zooming. And this one gives me my waveform, which you can see down here, which I can make bottom third or I can make full screen just by touching where the waveform is. This product is called the Shogun Flame. We announced and shipped the world's first HDR monitor recorders 2 weeks ago. They've been in stores. We're sold out. Every customer that sees it says, I want to shoot what I see too. Because the talent used to be trying to get what you see into a Rec 709 model. That was the skill. Now, guys like me who are not professionals, I'm a professional kit maker, electronics maker. I can't do what what Tarantino does. And by the way, film is also a very narrow dynamic range. It's more like Rec 709. It's not high. So this revolution that's coming where you can actually start to see what exactly you are shooting, it means that creativity now goes through the roof. And what Atomos have done with this slider is take away the log curves. You don't need to understand that. Take away the mathematics. We do all that for you. Just move the slider and make it look like what you're seeing. So as I move that slider across, and the sun's getting worse, you can see that as I get to the top of that waveform, that's what I was seeing. So actually, you don't even need to look at the waveform. You just look at the screen and look at what you're looking at and say, that matches. And then you hit record. What does that mean? That means when you take the log through to post-production, you now have the ability to master in HDR PQ, which is the Rec 709 standard for HDR TVs, and you can master in Rec 709. And you will not be overexposed. You will not be clipping too much. You won't have gone too far in HDR where it goes black. If I go too far above this line, this image goes too dark because I'm resolving too much of the brightness curve. See how the image has gone a little bit dark there? It's gone a little bit too dark. That's because I'm resolving too much. So I'll bring that back a bit. Remember, we are not touching the footage. We are just showing you what it looks like in HDR, which is PQ. So we convert the Sony S-Log to PQ so you can see what it's going to look like on your TV. How do you then post-produce this? I hear all the people asking. Well, it's very easy. We have, like we do, I'll just go back to that menu. This button that we changed to Sony, Canon, Panasonic, you just touch it and it changes. That also has a setting called PQ, which means when you're on record mode on the Atomos products, You hit PQ as a setting, and you hit output PQ from your Adobe or from your editing package that's capable. And now you can use this as a 7-inch grading monitor next to your laptop. And you can edit and grade for HDR on a 1500 nit, 1500 nit, 10-bit HDR panel. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. If you're doing Rec 709, the 1500 nits means you never have to use a sun hood. I'm serious. The brightest Vegas sun directly on the screen, and you can still set up your shots correctly and feel confident that you're not missing anything. So just remember, we're not touching the log curve. That goes right through Adobe, that goes right through all the editing packages. All you need to do, move the slider, set the line to just on top here, just kiss the top of the waveform, and you are good to go with HDR. That's how simple it is. And that's our job. As technology providers, we want to make the creative and business work of movie making and production and post-production as simple as possible, as affordable as possible, so more people can come into the industry, and you guys can get on with being creative and telling stories, because that's hard enough. That's hard enough without having to worry about all this technical stuff, which is not what really is your core forte. If you were good at that, you should be making products like me. But if you're good at production or you've got an idea on how to make money from it, then you should be buying products like mine to make your life easier. So finally, I'm about to wrap up. AtomHDR. Shoot what you see, and it's available today. You don't need a new camera, although I'm sure B&H would love to sell you one. If you don't have a log camera, or you want a wider dynamic range sensor, because they are getting better, and this is what's driven this boom of HDR, is that the sensors have been able to capture what we see for quite a while. And unfortunately, my good friends in the camera makers, Sony, Panasonic, and these guys, they've gone a bit technical on it. They haven't really gone to this level of explaining waveform and how it all works. And they haven't really developed that type of technology. But we're sitting there at the forefront of seeing the problems that creative people will have shooting. And our job, and my philosophy as CEO of the company, is to make sure that we deliver solutions to the real problems in production. And when we do that, guess what happens? We sell a lot of product. The whole ecosystem improves. We can pump money into R&D, and we can bring new products faster, which you are seeing here. HDR is an amazing thing. Not since SD to HD, where everyone in the industry went, oh my God, that is quite amazing. Well, this is 10 times for me. And what's happened in the last 3 months, I have shot more video than I ever have in my life. And I've been in the industry for 16 years. I've been a product manager of editing systems and capture boards for many, many years, as well as obviously my own products. And I don't shoot that much because it's not that interesting, to be honest. I did it many years ago. But with HDR, I'll tell you one story. Sunday morning, my 2-year-old daughter's running around. The sun is streaming in the window, and it's hazy. You could never capture that in Rec 709, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. What I did was, I'm like, maybe I could capture this with HDR. So I hooked up my A7S, which is, 2-year-old camera, and it has S-Log2 out. And so I put my Atomos slider to S-Log2, and I looked at the waveform, and I moved the line, and I hit record. And I have a prototype HDR TV from LG. We've been working closely with Samsung and LG on displaying HDR, because we've got to finish the whole thing, right? We've got to see what it looks like at the end. And so I plugged it into the HDR TV, and I called my wife in. And we watched it for 20 minutes. It was only a 2-minute clip. But it was what I saw 10 minutes ago was actually on the screen. And it was amazing. My family came over. I showed them the same thing. My father played it over and over and over. So I've never seen anything so beautiful. And I think that creativity, being able to capture what you really see and expose it correctly and deliver it, I can think of a million things that would be cool to shoot. And I'm not a creative guy. I can't imagine what those creative production people are going to do with HDR. And I really, really urge people to pick up one of these products, go over to our booth, have a look at it, go to B&H, it's in the store, check it out, and I promise you, you'll be walking out with that in your hand. There's a couple of extra things, being the salesman that I am, that I've got to let you know. We give you the case, we give you the batteries, we give you the charger, we give you everything in the box to get you going for the prices that we're offering. So the first HDR product is Ninja Flame. Ninja Flame is HDMI only, and it's $12.95. We've got Shogun Flame, $16.95. You get all this HDR with STI and HDMI. If you've got a quad B&C camera and you want to do 4K P60, those two do 4K P30, and you want to do 4K P60, then you need the Shogun Inferno. The Inferno is the big daddy. It's got all the connections you need. The Flames have, the Shogun has STI 12 gig, 6 gig, but it doesn't do 60p. That's the difference. And that's $19.95. So you just choose. $300 difference between them. $12.95, $16.95, and then $300 more, $19.95, and you get the full range. The Flames are available now. Inferno will be ready by July. We're in the middle of development now. There is no reason that you can't shoot HDR today, finish in HDR, or at least give yourself the option as the HDR TVs come to fruition in the next year. And I think when you really see it, you will understand why this is the next boom. Thank you very much for your attention.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.